What's going on, Ravens fans? Welcome into the Ravens Rundown. My name is Joey Petersen, and we have a ton to talk about on today's show. And I mean it when I say that. In fact, this thing might go 20 to 25 minutes today. That's because Jesse Minter and Eric DeCosta spoke at the NFL Scouting Combine. They spoke about Tyler Linderbaum, Lamar Jackson, Isaiah Likely, the new defensive scheme, pass rush help, the NFL draft. They got into everything. So we're going to break that down, try to make it as concise as possible on today's show. I told you all last week, you got to be subscribed to the channel because the content was only going to ramp up during the Combine because we've got guys in the Chat Sports crew, boots on the ground in Indianapolis. Already uploaded 2 videos today. This is going to be the third. We uploaded 15 shorts in like the last 7 hours. If you have not joined us yet, I promise you this is the best week to do so. Subscribe, and if you want to, turn on those notifications as well. I think the biggest takeaway from everything that either Jesse Minter or Eric DeCosta spoke about today at the Combine was what Eric DeCosta had to say about Tyler Linderbaum. We know they have had discussions over the past couple of weeks. We didn't know where they were, but Eric DeCosta sure shed some light on what Baltimore has already offered Tyler Linderbaum.
Yeah, so first of all, Tyler's a guy that I have tremendous respect for. Obviously he's proven to be, in my opinion, the best center in the league. We've been having conversations. We've had conversations since the end of the season. And at this point in time, we've made him a market-setting deal proposal, offer, and hopefully we can get something done with him between now and the start of the new league year.
So there you hear it from the Ravens general manager himself, a market-setting deal, and this is major news. Because up until this point, we knew that they've been talking, but we had no clue if Baltimore had offered anything at all to Tyler Linderbaum. In fact, Eric DeCosta was on Aaron Donald's podcast late last week. I believe it was on Wednesday or on Thursday, and he said we got some work to do on Linderbaum's contract. Well, it looks like they put a little bit of work into it over the latter half of last week. They've made him a market-setting offer. But now that you know that, I think the next question that follows that is, okay, what does market-setting mean? Because right now, if you look at the highest-paid centers, $18 million. Marlon Humphrey, he's number one. So technically, if they would offer him $18.5 million, that would be market-setting. Well, I don't think that would compete with what some other teams are reportedly interested in offering Tyler Linderbaum because that number's floating around $22 million. So, did they offer him anywhere from 20 to 22? Did they offer him just what would be barely over number one for centers paid in the NFL? There's a lot of unanswered questions at the moment, but we know they've offered him, and we know that Jesse Minter likes Tyler Linderbaum a lot. In fact, he went on to say that I think Tyler Linderbaum is the best center in the league. And I'm going to be honest with you, Ravens fans. Going into the day, I did not feel too optimistic about Tyler Linderbaum coming back to Baltimore, and I still don't know if he will. But I do feel a lot more optimistic right now than I did 4 or 5 hours ago. You want Linderbaum back in Baltimore? Don't jinx it. Okay, hit that thumbs up button. Like today's video if you want to see Big 64 back in Charm City. More extension talk, more contract talk. Apparently a Lamar Jackson contract extension could possibly be coming soon. Eric DeCosta was asked about where things stand with Lamar Jackson, given his cap hits over the next couple of seasons, and he likes to keep things private, but still let us know a little bit about that.
Well, as you guys know, Lamar and I have an agreement. We handle business kind of in-house internally, as you all know. That worked well for us the last time, and we will continue to have that policy moving forward. Have spoken to Lamar about a lot of different things over the last month. He's been very engaged. As I said, he was a big value to us in the coaching search. But we'll continue those conversations moving forward.
And I know he didn't clear up a ton in that clip, but it does seem like they are in a very, very good place, especially because the last time you had these extension talks with Lamar Jackson, at one point we got a tweet in the middle of the week of March that said that I am requesting a trade from the Baltimore Ravens. I don't want to tell you that's not going to happen this go-around because I frankly didn't think it was going to happen last go-round. But we do know that this is something that is going to happen because of those cap hits in 2026 and, of course, in 2027. New league year starts on March 11th. Ladies and gentlemen, that is like 2 weeks away. They are not going to go into this new league year with him being $75 million against the cap. So expect this to get done sometime over the next 2 weeks. And I think it'd be easy for Baltimore, if I'm being frankly honest with you, because Josh Allen just got an extension last spring, 6 years, $330 million, $55 million a year, $250 million guaranteed. And I'm not saying that they're going to 100% copy that deal word for word, bar for bar, number for number, but I do think it gives a very easy blueprint and starting point for these negotiations. Let's talk about Jesse Minter, because he spoke today. I guess it was technically the third time he spoke in the media since becoming the new head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, although the second time it was with Declan Doyle, Anthony Weaver, and Anthony Levine. So this was only the second time he's really spoken just himself up at the press conference. And I thought it was really cool because he stressed how important offensive line and defensive line is in this league. And I don't want to say that's anything, new. I don't want to say that's anything just like that makes my jaw drop at the understanding of Jesse Minter, but still, man, he looked and pointed to recent Super Bowl winners. And Gage, you could push this across and said it's an O-line and D-line driven league, which I could not agree more. And guess what the Baltimore Ravens' number 1 and number 2 needs are going into the offseason? Offensive line and defensive line. So to me, that's really refreshing to hear. Now, I don't know what their draft strategy is going to be. I don't know what their free agency strategy is going to be. But when you have a head coach who's speaking this way at the NFL Combine, it makes me think that they're going to address those needs. So it's good he says that, but then you got to ask the question, okay, what are you going to do about it? Because we've seen a lot of mock drafts from guys like Mel Kiper, Jeremy Fowler, Field Yates, that has Baltimore going wide receiver in round 1. In fact, Mel Kiper released one today that had that exact same result. We don't know if that's going to be the case, but if Jesse Minter's speaking this way and he believes it's an offensive line and defensive line driven league, I would think maybe it's not. He also spoke a little bit about him and Lamar Jackson's relationship, because that's really all everybody wants to know. That's all anybody wants to talk about. How does QB1 feel about his next head coach? Did he like the Minter hire? Did he hate the Minter hire? And Minter kept things coy a little bit, but I don't think it's anything too alarming.
Yeah, I think, Lamar and I's relationship, I'll probably try to keep pretty private. But it is always ongoing and always, trying to be in communication. And so just look, like I said at the very beginning, it takes time to build the trust and the communication and the openness that you really want to create with all the players. And so always working towards that. But I'd love to see him put in the work.
I 100% agree with Jesse Minter here that this is something that's going to take time to build trust. But I also think it's something that people are being a little bit too dramatic over and a little bit too dramatic about. Are we not all grown men here? Why do we have to be so invested in this relationship? Why do we have to act like it's a ticking time bomb that is about to explode? I don't know why we just assume automatically that Lamar Jackson doesn't like Jesse Minter, or Lamar Jackson wasn't happy with the hiring of Jesse Minter, because Jesse Minter even said today in his press conference, Lamar Jackson was a heavy part in the head coach interview process. And so, yeah, it's worthy to talk about. It's worthy to discuss. But at some point, man, I just think we need to leave this discussion in the dust and say, Lamar likes Jesse. Jesse likes Lamar. This is basically the first time they're interacting. I guess they did a little bit when they overlapped in Baltimore a few years ago. Regardless, it's in a whole new light now. Let's just stop acting like middle schoolers over this, okay? How about that? That's my advice for everybody watching. Are you concerned with Minter and Lamar's relationship? I am not, but you might be. Let me know down below by giving me a yes or a no down below in the comment section. If I were down there, I'd be spamming my nose. Jesse Minter, I thought, had a really cool answer about a new system. And I don't want to say it's like bare bones, ripped down to the studs new, but it's going to be something he necessarily has not had out there before. So it's going to be different than the Chargers, different than the Ravens. And this is why exactly you guys should subscribe. This is my own personal formulated question asked by our executive producer, Sam Brown, who was in Indianapolis. It started off with the fact of, hey, tell me about the advantages, or do you take stock in adding free agents who have been in your system before? It devolved into what to expect from the Ravens defense in 2026. I'll stop talking. Let's hear from Jesse.
I don't put a ton of stock into that. I feel confident in our coaching staff to teach our system and what we need to teach. So I think that can be helpful, particularly maybe like a mid-season move. can be helpful. But I think if you get a guy now, you got plenty of time to teach them what they need to do. We're still in the middle of kind of formulating our system for the 2026 Ravens. It's not the Chargers defense or the old Ravens defense. It's we're kind of figuring that out right now. So we're looking for the best players that sort of fit structurally how we want those certain positions to be able to play, the jobs we need them to be able to do, and kind of piecing it together that way.
Obviously, the reason you hired Jesse Minter was because of his ability to be a defensive mind, a defensive play caller, a defensive schemer. But I think it's really cool and advantageous for Baltimore that he's switching things up. He's changing things out. It's not going to be the same old scheme that he's been doing the last couple of years at the Chargers. Not going to be the same things that he did in Michigan. It's going to be something totally new. 2026 Baltimore Ravens. And then he's going to look at opposing offenses and say, okay, I dare you to score. I dare you to figure out the new things we've added, the little wrinkles we've changed over the last couple months or so. And again, this also goes into the excitement I have around this coaching staff. Really seems like he's done a good job so far. We got 5 more takeaways to get to, but real quick, a word from our sponsor. My wife, Kennedy, and I got married almost 2 years ago. I imagine we'll buy a house and start having kids maybe sometime soon. If something were to happen to me, the last thing I want the people I love to worry about is being able to pay the bills. So I trust Ethos to keep them protected. After watching someone close to me go through loss, I saw how quickly grief can turn into financial stress. That experience changed how I think about protecting my family. Life insurance isn't about expecting the worst, but it's about making sure the people you love are supported no matter what. That's why I recommend life insurance through Ethos. You can get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. Ethos is 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Help protect your family with life insurance through Ethos. Get your instant free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times and rates may vary. I think one of the most important things people were hoping to get out of today's pressers was maybe a little bit of clarification on Nnamdi Madubuike and his future. If you don't know what I mean by that, let me quickly kind of break it down for you. Nnamdi Madubuike started the first 2 weeks of this season, and he was off to a really, really hot start. About as hot of a start as you can get to from the interior of a defensive line through 2 games. He suffered an injury in the game against Cleveland, and then it became a little bit more serious than originally anticipated because it was in his neck. Shut him down for the rest of the season, and then there were question marks about whether he'd actually play football again in the National Football League. Things were kind of looking gray, looking a little bit dark towards the end of the year. That answer most likely was going to be no. And then over the last couple of weeks, Nnamdi Madubuike has been posting things on Twitter, a little bit of positive statements here or there. Well, we were hoping that today Jesse Minter or Eric DeCosta could say, yes, you've seen the tweets. He will be back soon. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Jeff Strayback tweeted out that Minter said Nnamdi Madubuike was at the facility a few weeks ago, but he wanted to keep the discussions between the two of them private. Totally understand why, but I guess it's good news to see that he was at the studio. That's where we are right now. He was at the facility. Brian Wacker said DeCosta does not have an update on Nnamdi Madubuike. Also says uncertainty doesn't impact his decision-making right now. So not much there. I still think it's probably a coin flip, but feeling a lot more optimistic about that matter than I was just a couple months ago. Speaking of Nnamdi Madubuike, one of the special things about him was his ability to rush the passer even from the interior and what he was able to do for the guys on the exterior when it came to their abilities to rush a passer. Well, when he went down, everything kind of went down with it. This defense was not able to get to the quarterbacks consistently, and that was a massive, massive part of the lack of success from that unit in 2025, something that Jesse Minter is emphasizing and knows the importance of.
Yeah, pass rush is, there's a lot of factors, I would say, that go into rushing the passer well. Sometimes it's playing with the lead. Sometimes it's blitzing more. So I think there's a lot of variety of ways to affect the pass rush. I feel like we have some guys that can do that, some young ascending players in that regard that can help us there. And then I think it's always a position that you're looking, for more. And so I know Eric and the guys will do a great job attacking free agency in the draft, building a team that in September that we feel has the ability to rush the passer.
I really, really believe in Mike Green. in his ability to take a step forward from year one to year two. In fact, I think Jesse Minter might end up being, at the end of his career, the best thing that will ever happen to one guy like Mike Green. But outside of him, I don't know how much trust I've gotten in Adisa Isaac. We've seen him play about half a game in the 2 seasons since you drafted him because of injury. Kyle Van Noy is getting older. David Ajabo sucks. I like Tavius Robinson. But I do think it's important that he mentioned adding there in the draft and adding in free agency because I think that is going to be their plan exactly. Kind of talked about it a little bit when he talked about the offensive line, the defensive line, building in the trenches. Look for that to be a massive, massive priority in the draft and, of course, in free agency in a couple of weeks. Marlon Humphrey, he is expected to be back in Baltimore. Now, just because they're saying it right now does not make it so. We've seen GMs and coaches say things at the combine a lot, and then, do something very different the following months. But DeCosta did say that he expects Marlon Humphrey to be a Raven this year and doesn't necessarily need a contract adjustment. He says, I love Marlon. I have not 100% given up on Marlon Humphrey. I'm willing to give him one more year because I don't believe Zach Orr really put anybody in advantageous spots on that defense with that pass rush. And so I'm willing to give Marlon Humphrey another season. But if things don't change and he looks the same as he did last year, I'm ready to ship him off. And I thought there was a chance it would happen this offseason just because of the money you'd save with this cap hit. But Eric DeCosta is saying that Marlon Humphrey will be back next year. This one's very interesting. Did not expect this to go down today, and I guess this isn't necessarily a takeaway from the press conference because this didn't come from Eric DeCosta or Jesse Minter, rather from the NFLPA spokesperson. This is what Kevin Ostreicher tweeted out earlier. Confirmed to Pro Football Talk that this play in the Ravens' Week 14 loss, the interception, not interception by Teddy Buchanan, Aaron Rodgers, was it a catch? Was it an interception? Was it incomplete? Apparently, that should have been ruled an interception after the NFL EVP of football operations, Troy Vincent, said there are reviews the league wishes they could have back. Like, why are you telling us that now? It's so annoying because we knew at the time you got it wrong. We told you at the time you got it wrong. And you let a wrong call massively have an impact on this team, massively have an impact on this future. Now, I think it all happened for the best. You didn't make the playoffs. You fired John Harbaugh. You went with Jesse Minter. If you win that game, if they call that play correctly, most likely you are in the playoffs, right? Now, Steve Bisciotti said the same result would have happened, but still, I digress. Stupid, hate the Steelers, NFL screwed Baltimore again. If you hate the Steelers with me, go ahead. Type FPIT down below in the comment section. Even near the combine, we share our hatred for the Steel City and the Pittsburgh Steelers. My final takeaway is that Ravens apparently want to re-sign Likely, although I don't really expect that to be something that necessarily gets done. Eric DeCosta with a little bit more about the Ravens tight end situation.
Yeah, so, we were in a little bit of a jam last year at that position where we had nobody coming back. And we had conversations with Mark, we had conversations with Isaiah, and we were able to get a deal done with Mark at the end of the season or near the end of the season that we felt really good about. We expect him to get back to himself and be the player that he can be. He's been one of our great players over the last, whatever it's been, how many years? 8 years, I guess, 7 years. And he's still got a lot in the tank. And we think he's going to be a playmaker for us this year. And we're glad we got the deal done.
I said at the time that extending Mark Andrews happened too early. It happened unnecessarily. I think Mark Andrews' career is over. You can clip this if you want. You can highlight cut it. You can screen record it. You can do whatever you want. I am making the call on February 24th, 2026. I, Joey Petersen, hereby declare Mark Andrews to be cooked. Yards after catch among NFL tight ends that qualified due to their receptions last year, he was dead last. Every time he catches the ball, he drops immediately to the ground. Okay? I don't think that there's much of a future for Mark Andrews in Baltimore. But also, Isaiah Likely had every option to become the man in the tight end room. He never really took it. He's all but gone. You're not going to re-sign Isaiah Likely. In fact, he went on with John Gruden last week and pretty much said that exact same thing. I just want to be able to blossom. I feel like the last couple of years, I've had a great vet in Mark Andrews. He's taught me everything to be a star caliber tight end. To the point where it's like now I just feel like I want to be on a team where I can get out there and help a quarterback as much as possible. And that's not going to be the case with Baltimore because you are still going to be the tight end too because they extended Mark Andrews. So I love Isaiah Likely. Unfortunately, he will not be back in Baltimore. That's going to do it for today's show. I called my shot at the very beginning. I said this one's going to be around 20 minutes. We're at like the 20-minute mark exactly because we got a lot to talk about. That's exactly why you guys should subscribe. I was tweeting out these clips all day on Twitter. Follow me over there, and we'll see you tomorrow.